Hey everyone, welcome to the Experience Maker Show. This is Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker and coach. So happy to have you here today on this Thursday and every Thursday at now noon Eastern in 2021. We moved to the morning hours because we thought that it might be a little bit more convenient for people. As always, I bring really interesting, incredible guests onto this show, people that I want to learn from, and therefore I hope you want to learn from too. And today's guest is really particularly fascinating to me because we literally just met backstage a couple minutes before this started, but I have been seeing him in my LinkedIn feed over and over and over again. And I wrote to him and I said, you must be doing something right, man, because LinkedIn keeps putting your content in front of me. It's great content. I want to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm super happy to introduce you to a man named A. Lee Judge. Now, he is the co-founder and CMO of a company called Content Monsta, which does digital marketing, personal branding, content creation. And like me, he's got a background in customer experience as well. So we're going to talk about the intersection of marketing and customer experience today. Lee, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
It's going great. I am super excited to meet you, and you're going to have to give me some of your secrets about how you are always in my feed, because whatever you're doing is working really well.
Well, it's hard to see who's actually seeing your stuff. You know how the algorithm is always this big mystery. So I guess the secret is consistency. And I was just working on a list of like top 11 ways to make sure you show up, basically. And it's a crossroads between quantity and quality. I always tell folks when they're starting out, it sounds counterintuitive, but start off with quantity because that'll make you better at it. If I go back 3 or 4 years, I'll probably see a lot of quantity of really bad material, bad content from my standpoint. I would be like, oh, the lighting is bad or the sound isn't great or whatever. But it resonated then when I wasn't focused on quality as much, but the consumer didn't care and so with that quantity of doing it over and over and over, the quality gets better and better. So maybe that's the secret of finding that crossroad between quantity and quality.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are our own worst critic
Yeah.
usually. And I think that I got the same advice when I joined Twitter and had no idea what I was doing, didn't know what a hashtag was. And a mentor of mine said, follow Nike's slogan, just do it. Just get on there and
Just do it.
start tweeting. Don't be an observer or a lurker. Just go do it. And sure enough, you start to figure out what works and what doesn't. Thank you all for watching live. If you do have a question for me or Lee as we talk about marketing and customer experience, please throw it into the comment section of Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, whatever platform you're on, and we'll be happy to get to your question. So Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and Content Monsta, which I love the name. Tell me how you got there.
Funny story. I was actually in Boston about a year or so ago doing a talk with Bright Cove. And because I was in Boston, people assumed that Content Monsta was Monster because I was from Boston.
That's awesome.
Just so happened that Content Monster ER was a lot more expensive for a domain name. So Content Monster.
Very smart. Yep.
But yeah, the company came about basically when I was working, interesting enough, in the customer experience industry. I worked for a great company named Jakarta. Jakarta creates customer experience software. So their main clientele are call centers and large organizations that speak to a lot of customers. And as a marketing director there, I found myself, learning about content marketing and needing more and more content. And so since I already had, my background originally, if you go back far enough, is actually in media and broadcast communications. So I began creating content for that company. I already had the cameras and the know-how to create content. So as I was examining all these vendors, I said, you know what, let me just create some videos myself for the company. And so I began creating, a lot of talking head, thought leadership type videos for the company. And then another company reached out and said, hey, Lee, was that work? We love those videos. Was that done outhouse or was it done internal? I said, well, kind of both, because I worked for them, but I offered my services and my equipment to create content for their marketing director, myself. I needed it, so I went ahead and made it. And so there was no conflict of interest, so I began making content for that company as well. They became our first client. And so it kind of grew from there, creating more and more content. And I think what made it work was that I'm a marketer first. I'm a marketer who happens to have a background in audio video production. So those two things coming together made for, I guess, a great situation to form the company Content Monsta because, we approach it as we're not just a production house, we're a marketing company who knows production. And so our target basically is other marketers because we get it. We know what it's like to be a small marketing team that needs more content, that needs to actually find an ROI in the content we're creating. So Content Monster, we're about, I guess, started in 2017. So 3 or 4 years in now, and we're growing well. And even with the pandemic, we've pivoted and done a lot more podcast production. And ironically, we were studying how to do things remotely before the pandemic, and it turned out to be a good thing for us.
I was going to say, I would imagine that the pandemic, there's so much more demand for audiovisual right now. Folks that never were on video in their lives are now getting on there. So I'd imagine that it's not a bad place to be there, as some industries are actually thriving very much in the stay-at-home environment.
Yeah.
What are you finding? So I want to get into this cross section of marketing and customer experience first. But my first question, which I think is somewhat related, is the experience of most content consumers is that we have content coming at us from absolutely everywhere on
Yeah.
all sorts of channels, in audio, in video, in print, with memes, with GIFs, with emojis, all this stuff coming at us. How does one stand out in what is only a continually growing marketplace for content?
Well, the single most thing you can do to differentiate yourself is be yourself. I'm really on a really big kick now. I did a keynote at Content Marketing World, I guess last year, and it was called Be Content. And it was based on helping others understand that right now people long for a personal connection, either because we haven't been around people as much, or because of, as you said, this just marketing, being tired of seeing markety stuff. And so this third party from a third person kind of content doesn't resonate as well. But if it comes from a person, even if it's the CEO of a company, seeing that CEO do his everyday things reminds you of that company and still has a positive value towards the company, even though he may not even be talking about their product or service. So right now, I think getting above the noise means showing your face, being yourself, being not afraid to go maybe off topic a bit to show more of your personality, because people are going to recognize who you're attached to or what you're attached to. So, I don't care if you're selling tires, if you've got a great personality and you show up, then people will say, who is this guy? Oh, he's a tire guy. By the way, I like this guy. So when I need tires, I'll probably go to him. So that's the differentiator, having the guts to show up as yourself and be personable.
It's so right on. I think people forget so often that we buy from people more
Yes.
than we buy from companies. And, particularly any business that requires a salesperson, you often choose based on the salesperson.
Yep.
We made a big purchase of windows for our home a couple of years ago, and we had probably 7 salespeople come to the house. They all say the same thing. They all made the same joke, by the way, that the cat was going to be so confused because the windows were so good that the cat was going to go seek out the sun, but it wasn't going to be warm. That turned out to be a fake claim, by the way. But we ended up buying from the salesperson that we liked the best, even though he was a little bit more expensive than some of the others. We trusted him. We felt like we established a relationship, and that is absolutely critical in the B2B or B2C space. So I love that you're suggesting to people. I think it's right on that you get out there and just be a person, because we all have a story to tell. And we all have the interesting parts of our background that sometimes you dig into, and they make for a great story or what have you.
I think
Um,
what we often miss as both marketers and salespeople is that we all have common playbooks. If there's a way to sell something, we've all read the same blog, the same white paper on how to sell. If we have a product, say, for example, you mentioned the Windows example, they're all reading the same industry information, going to the same industry trade shows. So they're all sales pitching or marketing the same thing. And they tend to be in a bubble thinking that, okay, even though we've read all the same styles and pitches and ways to sell this, somehow we think that we're all that different. And as you
Yep.
said, you're not different until it's you, until you do what you do and you add your personality and your experience to it. Until then, you may think that what you say is original, but the reality is you're just part of the industry and everybody's doing the same thing. So whether you're marketing, creating content, or talking to your customers, you have to understand that you're not the only one. And your message is not that unique unless it's coming from somewhere different that's coming from you.
Yeah, especially if you've gone to a webinar or read some sort of white paper on here are the best sales techniques. It's a great point that other people have read it too. And I wrote a blog a couple of years ago about some of the corniest sales come-ons that I had received being in corporate America. And, there's this, I'm sure you've gotten this email too. There's this email that says, I'm wondering why you haven't responded to my previous email. It's because either A, you're not interested, B,
Yeah.
whatever, or C, you're getting chased by a wild rhinoceros.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
at some point, someone had a blog or a training session that said, hey, this is a great new thing. Try it. And he said it to a million people, and they all thought that they were the only ones who heard it, and they went out and tried it. So within, a month, it's dead, and it's already high on the spam filter.
exactly. Yeah, great point. So I've always felt that one of the jobs of marketing is to kind of set up the customer experience, because after all, a marketer is usually making some sort of promise about what a product or service or company is going to be like. And so my feeling kind of in today's society is that marketing, first of all, is critical because it's often the first interaction or experience that somebody has with your company. And then secondly is it's kind of in charge of setting up the promise, and you want to make sure that you are promising something that the rest of your company can deliver on. Can you talk a little bit about where you see marketing's role in terms of, vis-a-vis customer experience?
Yeah. So I like how you said it's one of the first things you see in terms of understanding that company, because when it comes to marketing, the personality of the company, that's the first introduction. It's almost like seeing someone and it's funny. I'll tell you a quick story. My wife has a fear of meeting celebrities. And the reason why, because we used to be in the music industry and it was really easy to meet celebrities, and there would be a celebrity standing right there and she wouldn't go talk to them. And her rationale was that I saw their marketing, I saw how they looked, I saw how they've been in the movies and everything that was all made up. But what if I meet them in person and they have some corny laugh, or their voice sounds funny, or they smell? I mean, it'll all be ruined. So, and so for that reason, she doesn't even talk to celebrities because she doesn't want it to be ruined for her. So think about that in terms of marketing and customer experience. So we get all the marketing, we get all the shiny, the how they look, how they sound, how the company's supposed to behave with us. But sometimes once we actually start to interact with them, that customer experience part starts, then all of a sudden we start smelling things that we didn't match with the picture, right? So it's important to make sure that customer experience is aligned with the marketing so that the marketing doesn't sell an image or expectations that the company can't back up. So those things have to be very well in line. And also they should feed from each other. Whether you're in sales or you're developing a customer experience, I think customer experience is the combination of sales and marketing, right? Because I mean, it's a journey. We have this map we create for our customers internally, but reality is the customer doesn't care nor see a map. They just do what they do in their journey to buy what they're going to buy. But we have our map that says, they come in through the top of the funnel with marketing, and they go through our marketing process or our marketing funnel. Then we go to sales, and then they go through the sales process. That's all nice and pretty and all, but that isn't how it really works. People come in through marketing, they leave, they come back, they may start talking to sales, they leave, come back. All of that is the customer experience we're talking about. The experience is the coming and the going until the sale, and then of course a follow-up. So I say all that to say basically there has to be a very well orchestrated dance between sales and marketing to make sure the customer experience is the outcome and that it's positive and it's what you expect it to be.
For sure. I mean, the old adage from the movie, if they build it, if you build it, they will come, just doesn't work anymore.
No.
And I think one of the things that you said that's so key is, in customer experience, one of the best ways to improve the experience for your customers is to break down the internal silos in your company.
Yeah.
And often what happens is marketing or sales is one of those silos. And so they don't actually know what's going on in the rest of the company. So they can promise things that sound good from a marketing perspective, but that the rest of the company can't actually deliver on.
Yeah.
And if you establish that connection so that it is a two-way street, as you say, you're not only improving your marketing, but you're going to end up improving your experience too, because when everyone's talking to one another, we can deliver something that is consistent. A great example of that is, the mistake that so many companies make. We said before that people buy from people they like. Is you buy from that salesperson, and you know what? This happened to me with the windows. And the minute that you sign the deal, salesperson disappears, and you're handed off to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hold on a minute. I liked you. That's why I bought these windows. And now you're gone because you're just focused on the next sale. And that is a great way to positively ruin the experience pretty quick on. So good stuff. So let's talk about Content Monsta. What are your clients asking for today? What's hot in terms of either the types of content or the channels, or what are people interested in?
So podcasts are really hot right now. And it's interesting because I'm seeing it in certain industries. It makes us wonder, okay, was there, as we said earlier, was there a conference or something or a white paper or some kind of information that pushed one industry faster than the other? But we do see trends in certain industries. And we had prepared before the epidemic, before the pandemic, to do some remote, both video remote and podcast remote. And so we were lucky to buy up a bunch of the audio video conversion cards, the capture cards before they went through the roof. We had some things we bought for $100. It became $400 when the pandemic hit. So we were preparing both hardware and software to do live remote production as well as live remote podcast production. So once the pandemic hit in March, April or so, we did have to cancel quite a few video shoots, in-person video shoots. But at the same time, we got a lot of demand for podcasting. And so, having a background again in audio video, we were definitely prepared for that. And we're really enjoying creating and hearing some of the great podcasts that businesses are producing right now. It's a bit of different model for businesses because our clients are business to business. But the combination between some are doing full on audio podcasts, some are doing live like we're doing right now, some are doing video podcasts. That's what's hot right now. We're seeing definitely the biggest surge in podcasting.
Well, and as I'm sure you know, because I'm sure you do this for your clients, the big secret is that every time you record an episode like this, whether it's audio or video, if you're doing things right, you're creating many pieces of content off of that one particular piece of content. So, for example, on this show also, the video gets uploaded to YouTube, but then it's available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and all that. I'll take the transcription of the interview and usually write a blog post about it. And then you've got a whole bunch of social posts that you can take from that. So a single interview, for example, a single half an hour piece of content, audio or video, can turn into dozens, if not hundreds of pieces of content. And I think that's where companies can really scale this content thing, because as you said at the beginning, it's quality and quantity. I know, for example, that a half an hour spent with you is going to be quality. I got that. And now the question is, can I turn it into quantity as well so that I bring it to people not only in many times, but I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is that people consume content in different ways.
Yes.
My kids are watching videos on their phone all day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that I have time to watch videos, but I will take the dog for a walk and be happy to listen to a podcast on audio. Or I'm a little bit more old school. I like reading things, so I'll prefer the blog and read the transcription over anything else. But the point is, different people consume in different ways, and the more we can offer it in different ways, I think you increase your chances of finding the right prospect.
And that's important on two fronts. I mean, one from a marketing and content marketing standpoint, but also from the customer experience standpoint. I mean, customers even consume the content for their experience differently, whether it be reading about your company or your product, whether it be watching a video about your product. I mean, I'm one of those who I prefer video and audio over text. And so if I get to a site, if I'm researching something, the company that has a video on their product, I'll go to first every time. That's just, that's just me. But I've
Yeah.
also had to learn as a content producer for my clients to work with them to find out, to learn more about their customers, and also remind them that while you think that writing or blogs or white papers could be the best thing, or that's the thing you've been doing, you're going to lose out on a segment of customers if you don't do other forms of video. And that's why Content Monster tries to, and we do, and this is what we coach to our customers, is to focus on the big content, the base content, the video, the audio, the podcast, because from there, then we can create, like you said earlier, we can create written content, we can create social content. If you start small, you have less content you can create under it. And what we're doing right now, for example, as you mentioned, I mean, before we started recording this, I made sure I have a soundboard that's recording audio. I'm capturing the video. You're capturing the video. So we'll both have lots of content from this, and not to mention the whole piece, but also the sound bites of our conversation. So, you may a year from now go back and say, wait, there was something that Lee and I talked about last year that 30 seconds would be great right here. And that's what you can do if you start with the big content.
For sure. Yeah, great point. So I haven't done this in a little while because I honestly haven't remembered. But when I ask people to be guests on the show, I do ask them a question ahead of time. One question, which is to remind them of a particular customer experience that they wanted to share. And when I asked you that, you told me to remind you about purchasing something or interacting with Costco's Travel offering. And I'm very intrigued because I am a Costco customer, but I've never engaged with their travel. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so I surprised the wife with a trip to Paris a couple years ago, and of course
Nice.
I had options
Way to
of,
make us look bad. Way to make everyone else look bad.
hey, it was our anniversary. Yeah, I think I'm still living off points from that one, but it's dwindling.
Good
Um,
job.
but I had the choice of either piecing it together myself online, because now we can be our own travel agents because we have access to all the hotels.com and travel.com, whatever. I could have used AAA. I'm a member there. They could have done it for me as well, and I've used them before. But I'm looking through, okay, am I getting the most value out of my Costco membership? What else can I use that for? So I tried them, and from a customer experience standpoint, the beauty was when I bought that package, and I was calling back this because I felt a little bit skeptical because I haven't used them before. And I'm like, well, what about at this stage? How do I get from the airport to the hotel? Or how do I let the driver know that this is paid for? And they kept repeating to me, don't worry, we have it handled. It'll be there. We'll send you a voucher. We'll send you everything you need to make it seamless. And I was totally the skeptical customer. I was like, can't be this seamless. But sure enough, during that trip, everything was just that seamless. And I could even call them during the trip to say, in fact, there was no problems. It was more or less me calling to make sure because I was nervous.
Yeah.
Will the car be here? Do I need to call ahead? All these little details were taken care of. And on top of that, we get to the hotel and we get there and there's like a fruit basket and some chocolates and gift baskets from Costco, and I'm like, wow,
Wow.
okay, I've traveled around the world. I get to a hotel and there's a basket from Costco personalized for us with our name on it and our gift, whatever. And that was just the icing on the cake of the experience. And so from leaving home to traveling there to all the adventures we did while we were there to coming back, that package was a great experience. It didn't require much effort on our behalf to make sure everything went smoothly.
I love it. And especially when you travel to a country where you may not speak the language. I love that everything is smooth and consistent and easy because that's what people want when they travel. And you know what? Our one of our popular viewers and a former guest, Ryan Baker, said the same thing. Awesome story and experience. So thank you. Thanks, Ryan. And thanks for sharing that, Lee. Lee, believe it or not, we are out of time. I can't believe it. I want to tell the audience one thing, though. I want to go back to where I started with this episode, which is Lee and I just met a couple minutes before this episode. And we met because I reached out to him on LinkedIn because his content was resonating with me on LinkedIn, and I was seeing it in my feed. I don't actually remember, Lee, maybe you do. I don't remember how we got connected, but we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I saw your content. And I want to encourage people to do more of that, because what I have found is as I do more of that, I am meeting very interesting people. I'm expanding my network. I am helping other people expand their network. And that's what it's all about. As Lee said earlier, it's about the people. We're all in a people business at the end of the day, because without people, we don't have customers. So I want to encourage everybody who's watching, go through your LinkedIn today and look and see if somebody's talking about something that's really interesting to you, and reach out to them and just say hello. And you may make a new friend like I made with you today, Lee. So I'm very excited to know you, and I hope we will continue to collaborate and stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. And thank you, everyone, for watching today. Next week, we are going to completely shift gears, and we're going to talk to a man named Scott Luton. Now, Scott is the founder and CEO of Supply Chain Now, which is a very popular podcast in, you guessed it, the supply chain industry. I got to serve on a panel with Scott, and I found it absolutely fascinating. I had never thought of supply chain really as contributing to the customer experience, but man, all that had to happen, like Lee referenced, is that a product that you wanted during the pandemic was out of stock or triple the price. And you know what? The reason for that is because of the supply chain. So Scott is a very interesting guy. We're going to talk about supply chain next week. Thank you again so much for watching the Experience Maker Show. I'm Dan Gingiss, customer experience speaker and coach. You can find me at dangingiss.com. And if you have suggestions for other guests that we can have on the show, please let me know. Always happy to consider them. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the week and a terrific weekend.